Hi, everyone. Totally fired up to be here. Thanks to the host for putting on such a great event. Definitely some of the best marketers I've worked with in my career are out of Toronto, and I think it's events like this that really foster a community and a culture of excellence that you can feel after you go out into the world and deliver marketing for clients. So it's great to be here. Today I'm going to talk to you about Deben. My name is Marc Parillo, and I'm a founder, head of sales here. As part of the founder journey, I was asked to tell a little bit of my story. I think the intro gave a bit of that away, so I will do that very quickly. Talk about how we're trying to disrupt the space with our software. And this is a tough space to do some kind of a demo, but I'll play the video and we'll have a chat maybe while that's going on. So I started management consulting. I think the short story here is it's where I grew my passion for client services and my passion for data. Back in the day, it was called big data, and that was just the coolest thing that you can find these nuggets in numbers and deliver them to clients and drive business value with those numbers. Just the coolest thing ever. After 4 years in management consulting here in Toronto, actually, I joined a company called Gale Partners. Who here has heard of Gale? Oh, a few, that's awesome. So I was employee number 5. When I joined them, we had 0 clients, 0 revenue, and some dreams of what we wanted to do with data. And that all sounded super exciting. But on paper, it was not a job I should have taken. But something in my gut said this was right. And boy, was I glad that I followed my gut with that, which is actually atypical for me. But I had just an amazing 8 years there. Building it from 5 people to 1,200 people all around the world in India, LA, New York, as well as Toronto. We were doing over $1 billion in media billings and hundreds of $1 millions in revenue. And I've had the privilege of delivering really challenging work with 60+ clients over that time. So it was really an exciting place where I got to learn a lot of the corners of the agency world and how to really just build a business. It was a very startup mentality. They've since been acquired by Stagwell. Then I took 6 months to hang out because my wife said I was wound up too tight, and I listened to her. And I traveled the world, and it was fun, and it was relaxing. And then it was time to build some vertically integrated software. And that's when I bumped into a co-founder, Prasad, at a Y Combinator event. And he had titles like head of data at places like Viacom and Dish, and really understood the plumbing of this super complex media planning landscape. And combined with my knowledge of how media plans should be made and how client services needs to be developed, it was a really nice marriage. So we're about 5 months into this. We've raised a bit of money. We built a product. We actually launched it last week. There'll be a QR code at the end of this. Thank you, thank you. We've done pilots with some of the biggest holdcos in the world, which I'm not allowed to name quite yet. But we got some mojo going, so it's exciting times. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about it. So who here knows what media planning is? Okay, some good hands. Is anybody like really brave and want to give a quick 2-sentence description of it? It's okay if not. Anyone? Okay, I'll do my best to do it. So basically, every single year, there's $1 trillion of ad spend that goes out into the global market. $1 trillion. It's a lot of jack. Now the problem, as I see it, is that's run by 100 million hours of human effort, which is far too much effort, and that gets in the way of effective client services and, frankly, performance. But what these brands want is they want to give a budget to a safe steward, a steward like an agency that then can understand where the best return is for that spend across linear TV, connected TV, social, Google. Yeah, there you go, a little plug. And all the way down to even like billboards and out of home and CRM planning activities with direct mail. So how do you do that in a smart way? Well, the truth is right now, it's a lot of people and process, and it should be a hell of a lot more technology, which is what we're trying to go up against here. And frankly, I think the agency model is under a lot of headwinds right now. There's a lot of consolidation. A lot of brands are going in-house, which is confounding the issue where they want to get more value from their spend. There's this cookieless future that's shaken the bedrock of Nielsen's of the world as well. And the whole planning landscape is changing drastically with this other little thing called Gen AI, where creative gets plugged in and needs to be supported in different inventory formats. So lots of change. Now, if you're at the top of a marketing agency, your goal is to organize people to deliver effective media plans at scale. This is a big part of the business, especially when you think globally for how these companies operate. And they have clients shown by these yellow balls. These yellow circles all have very different needs. They have different levels of ad spend. They have a different desire for innovation. Sometimes they want to copy-paste. Sometimes they want to be in the metaverse in a Roblox gaming situation. They have different client expectations, and you have different skill sets across your team. So how do you organize people to deliver great plans across these clients? It's a very challenging thing. Now, what happens today is they make a campaign brief, which is a Word document. This Word document has the same ingredients. No matter where you go in the world, it's the same pieces in there. You have business objectives, which can be eyeballs looking at something, all the way down to sales. We like business objectives more than vanity objectives, but clients care about both of those things, so you have to have them both. You have target audience. Sometimes that is a persona. Sometimes that's a list of PII that you can reach those people. The planners make a ton of strategic decisions. They make decisions on geography, on channels, on publishers, day parts, flighting. If you're not from the media world, just know that there's a lot of decisions that they make, and they make a lot of them manually. And then these agencies also buy a ton of data, and they work really hard to generate insights from the plans that they put out in the market over the years, making MMMs, buying the right upfronts, which dictates some of their rate cards, all this fun stuff going on in the background. But it's a very complicated soup of activity to make this simple equation work. Now, the process in the back end, I won't do a whole build on this, but it's pretty wild. So the brand comes with a campaign brief. The strategy and client services people try to put that into a format that's useful. They got people doing research on audiences. They're making maybe business models, seeing what the upside on the revenue might look like. The research tools are showing some number for here, but a different number there, so they're finding the right source. And after all of that, 4 weeks later, they get an Excel plan that looks something like this. I know it's small for you guys at the back, but it looks like a Gantt chart with a lot of colors on it. And it's basically spend by channel. So there's a lot of noise in this. And if you're really good, maybe you made a PowerPoint presentation sharing the logic as to why this Excel looks the way that it does. Now, the truth is, from an agency perspective, this is not a great output. And this is how all agencies pretty much operate, to be frank with you. This is very expensive. It's people intensive. By my estimates, it takes about $100,000 to $200,000 to build a single plan, and you're doing multiple plans for each brand throughout the year. I believe that it's inaccurate because each of these teams are making their own manual assumptions that are done in a non-systematic way. So you give it to one team or another team, they're going to have different hoops that they're making assumptions in to try and drive that media plan. It's also unsystematic. If you gave the same brief to the same team 9 months later and did like a little Men in Black memory eraser for them, they would make a completely different plan because nothing they do is actually repeatable. And then they also have 1 or 2 scenarios at best that they're presenting to the client. And frankly, I think that's not comprehensive enough. There needs to be a lot of different plans created to feel out what the right option is. So these are some of the challenges. And after 4 weeks and 10 people and all this effort, 24 hours later, the client has a few ideas, always. And they'll say things like, okay, well, that looks smart enough, but like, what if we shift our budget from linear to digital? What would that look like? What if we like prime sports in the day parts, but we don't like NBA for whatever reason? Taylor Swift is big in the NFL. I know that's a little outdated now since the Super Bowl happened. What happens if we omit Twitter? Elon's doing whatever on X, and we just want to avoid that for brand safety reasons. How about Samsung, like a small publisher that's not included in our Nielsen data? How do we incorporate that in a smarter way? It's a political year. How does that change things? All these questions create a cycle of an analysis that agencies have to do. Like I said before, that adds up to the 100 million hours of effort that it takes to service this trillion-dollar market. So what we're up against here is a high coordination between teams doing low-value activities. There was a question from you earlier today around what's the role of humans with all of this technology around. I think ultimately, for me at least, people need to find what the value of their strategic thinking is on top of all this kind of technology. But it shouldn't be doing menial tasks. We should be having technology in one system, doing smart, systematic decisions tuned to the agency's point of view. We also, in doing this, give agencies and brands control. They can understand why decisions are being made in their media plans in a much more direct way than this manual workaround that's happening today. And ultimately, we want plans that are actionable and that actually perform. And so you have to put that all into the software. I'm not going to go into too much detail of how this all works, but taking some inputs on data that they have. There's some creative in there as well. There's historical rates, there are MMMs, there's all this kind of smart stuff. We do some smart modeling with ML and AI. It all gets access through a really elegant front-end system that planners can actually think strategically, and we build the outputs that folks want. So instead of taking 4 weeks, we can create a plan. We can create 20 plans in a few minutes. So people can log in, explore different scenarios, and really just find the right fit for their client. So ultimately, that's what Deben's all about. That's why we're on the mission to build better media plans faster. And we believe building better media plans faster means happier clients. It means 10xing your team's output, and it helps you win new business. So for us, the opportunity is clear. And then this is a little bit of how it actually looks. I'm not going to talk through too much of it. Maybe we just play it during the Q&A is maybe the right thing to do. But you can see, you put in decisions, lots of smart stuff happening, and it all happens really quickly. We got some questions. Actually, instead of showing the video during Q&A, I would love all of you to, first of all, add me to LinkedIn if you have any points of view or feedback to anything I said. And number two, if you work at an agency and you have some budget for some innovation, hit this up and create a demo on our website, and I'll come and talk to you based on the time you book.
Yeah, amazing. Like, I really think this is super interesting. Tell me, why this problem?
Well,
as a founder, why this problem?
Yeah, so when I was building Gale from 5 people to 1,200 people, it started off in analytics. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew that we were going to do something with data. Then we took a step into CRM, dipped our toe into loyalty, ended up doing a little social, built a creative capability, then built a technology capability, and then started getting into media buying. And when we got into media buying, that was some of the hardest integrations that we had to do, people and capability building-wise, because it was so traditional. And I think the stat was half of people, what was the stat? Half of people are on 5 channels every single day these days. And not all those channels are purchased programmatically. Some of them are bought in phone calls still. Like some of the biggest ad units are bought in phone calls, or they're bought in upfronts in this weird kind of pseudo market that happens on linear TV. And so that whole equation, there was a ton of waste, and I felt that firsthand. And so whenever you feel pain or waste, that's where the opportunity is, and that's why Deben is what it is.
And you know, I've been in the advertising. I've been the CEO of 3 of Canada's largest agencies. There are very few. I'm very super cynical. There are very few things that impresses me. This blew me away. Blew me away.
That's
okay, we have time for 2 questions. Who wants to ask a question? Yep.
Yeah, one of my first questions was going to be, how are you going to buy media, like how are you going to buy TV stuff? Because I know like Media Ocean runs on like OS that is like 1995. So how are you going to do that? And secondly, are you, because like a lot of big agencies like IPG, WPP, they have their in-house AI. And a lot of the in-house AI is doing similar to what you're doing. They're using data, they're coming up with data from their clients, and then customizing it with media plans and like trying to reduce the redundancies. So how are you going to disrupt their data, which is like, I'm sure, a lot bigger than what you have? So,
Yep.
yeah.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, a lot of these big agencies have spent a lot of money over a lot of years developing a technology solution that has a lot of technical debt in it. It started with TV, and then they bolt on some of the more modern channels, so CTV, digital, and the rest. And if you look at these platforms for planning, they're so archaic. A dirty secret is, across all the holdcos, if you look at the utilization of these tools, it's below 10%. So if you're like a senior person at an agency and you're like, 90% of my people are not even using the technology that I set up, what are they doing? And the answer is they're playing in Excel. What was the first part of the question again? Oh yeah, so there's some integrations that need to happen. It's all part of our roadmap. It's super complicated. MediaOcean is in cahoots with Nielsen. It's a whole complicated thing. But even where we're playing is on the strategy side of it, where there's a ton of waste. That's where the 100 million is. That's not even talking about the accounting side of the equation, the optimization and reporting part of the equation. That's a whole other ball of yarn that we're not even touching. This is just strategy in the zone of the right mix that a client can believe and performs decently well.
And here's our second question.
Well, hi, Mark. My name is Janvi, and first of all, fantastic job on identifying a market gap, and I think it's a really nice idea. So my question is that what is the adoption rate of this software, and whether it is more on a brand side or the agency side?
Thank you for your question. The adoption rate right now is slim. We are figuring out how to sell this. We are talking to brands, we are talking to agencies. Like I said, we've done pilots, but whenever you have a startup, it's you got to figure out what the hook is. And when you're doing these big enterprise sales, especially at agencies, which are famously hard to sell into, there's a lot of things that, it's a considered purchase. So there's a lot of things that make that go slower. So we have a good handful on the hook that we hope to be closing in the next month or so, now that we have a product as of last week. But like I mentioned, the pilots are working, and we have plans to integrate data that's frankly just good enough to get to the medium agencies. Because like the way this world works, there's 270,000 agencies in North America, and a big chunk of them are under 10 people. And there's a big, juicy medium section where they're buying, a handful of millions, probably mostly in digital channels, but they need help on how to do that properly because they don't have the muscle built up. So we're starting at the high end where the adoption is slower, but then we'll get the integrations and move to the mid range.
Yeah, and the reality is that all it takes is one big thing to change an industry, and I think you're on the right path for transformation. This is one that needs a kick in the butt. So good for you,
Agreed.
and thank you so much
thank you.
for coming. Really appreciate it.